نسمو على النجم به نحيا بلا ذل حياة الأمن والسلم ودولتنا لقد قامت على الإسلام في ختم ورغم جهاد.
That God exists. Is there any criteria that you have set apart to tell you guys that yes, if I find X, Y, and Z, then I'll be convinced that God exists? Have you actually thought of a criteria? Because now you're saying there's no evidence, but then you should be looking for something to basically recognize that as evidence. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Well, seeing God, so if I'm able to understand something as this is happening because of God, then I will believe in God. But if I can see, I study
like what? I'll give you one example. The origin of the universe.
Origin of the universe.
It either came from something or it came from nothing. Is that good enough for you?
It either came from something.
Yeah. If you narrow it down to the minimalistic understanding of how the universe came into existence, then you can say, look, either it created itself, yes, or someone created it.
Someone created it.
Or it came from nothing.
Or you could say that anything happened because we don't know what happened.
No, but you see, don't know right now is not really a solution to a problem. You see what I mean?
Okay.
We're looking for answers. Don't know is not really an option. Otherwise, we'll just sit on our couches and say don't know, and we won't really progress in anything. You see what I mean?
Okay.
As a human being, as the intellect that God has given us, well, at least to us theists, we believe that God has given us an intellect, and you have to make use of that intellect.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think all human beings, regardless of their belief or disbelief, have been given the opportunity and the ability to experience and to understand the creation. And and the creator in a way, because obviously all this didn't come by accident.
But I think before we say, we can't say for certain what happened. So I think is it safer to say that God didn't create the universe and science didn't, or like protons crammed together didn't expand?
No, man, I'll ask you, where did the protons come from?
That's a good question. And then,
you see, everything we have to go back to the origin. Yeah, exactly. We have to, because you see. That's the reason I said in the minimalistic understanding, you will go on asking, okay, who created this, who created that, who created the one before that. You see, you'll come to a point where you'll say, look, either this singularity or this whatever this gaseous nature before the Big Bang was, yes, where did it come from? You'll come to a certain point where you stop. And you cannot go beyond that because you don't have any evidence. You'll only be speculating beyond that.
Unless it's a cycle.
No, it's not a cycle, because you see, that is not the end. A cycle is something that continues.
Yeah.
Yes? But this is not really the end, is it? We have to know that something, we know, not have to, we know for a fact that something doesn't just pop out of existence, like you said, by magic. It has to be, there has to be a cause for that effect to happen.
But again, we can't say it's God and we can't say it's...
I'm not telling you to say God.
Yeah.
I didn't give you that option. Remember, the options I gave you was either it created itself or it came from nothing. Yes?
Okay. Well, okay.
Earlier on, sorry, you said that it's safer.
Is it safer? Okay. Maybe.
What were you saying? You said, is it safer to say that God didn't create it?
Okay, fine. Can we be more... I think I'm trying to say... Is it better to say...
That's the question we're dealing with.
The God... Is it better to say that we just don't know? Or is it better to say...
So you have the option to say, I don't know. You have the option, but like I said, that really won't answer your question.
Sorry?
It will not answer your question, will it?
No. But how can we have an answer to a question that we're uncertain about?
Now you see, when you say uncertain about, are you uncertain that something comes from nothing, or you're certain something cannot come from nothing?
Well, I'm uncertain if something can come from nothing.
Sorry, you're uncertain?
I'm uncertain whether something can come from nothing.
Why are you uncertain?
Because...
Do you think there's a possibility?
I've never heard of it before.
So you're certain? Then?
I'm uncertain.
Okay, let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Imagine you got your phone, for example, yeah?
Yes.
If I told you the phone came from nothing, yes? No one created it, yes? No Steve Jobs, no one?
Got it.
Yes? And it came from nothing, will you believe me?
No, because
Why not?
Because it's not in my experience. It's not in my past
Because
experience.
I think there's a confusion. He's saying that he doesn't. Am I correct in saying you're saying that nothing can come from nothing?
I'm saying I don't think anything can come from nothing.
Oh, so we are in agreement then.
Because it's not in my past experience. Like, I've never heard of it.
Forget about experience. Do you think it's logical?
Do I think it's logical?
Yes.
If you gave me an explanation, I take things that I believe based on if I understand them.
Yeah.
So
that's why I asked you. Is it logical? Do you think
is it logical for something to come from nothing?
Is it incoherent for something to come from nothing? Or is it logical?
Well, we can say that mass can't be created or destroyed. So
sorry, energy.
Energy.
Yeah.
Well, E is equal to mc squared.
Yeah.
So
in a closed system, don't forget that.
yes,
Yes,
well.
because the law of thermodynamics tells you that energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
Then I'll ask you, before the closed system, the universe, for example, what form was energy in, and where did it come from?
Well, energy was in the form of mass.
What mass? Mass of what?
Mass of. Well,
You read the formula, but I don't think you've understood it, have you?
E is equal to.
We're talking about previous to the universe actually existing, the closed space.
Okay.
You know, when you say energy, it has to obviously be in some form, because energy is always in some form.
Well, energy can be in the form of mass.
No, mass.
In mass.
When you say mass just means weight.
Yes.
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 If you see a photon doesn't have mass.
No, it doesn't.
A photon is light. What light is made of, basically. Yes. Number of photons.
Yeah.
Yes. A photon itself doesn't have mass, and that's the reason you use the speed of light in the E is equal to mc square. But anyway, that's a different. Before we are not even dealing with E is equal to mc square yet. We're dealing with energy itself. Yes, energy can neither be created nor destroyed in a closed system. A closed system can be like, for example, a gas cylinder. Within that there is energy. Yes, within that closed system it's got some form of energy. Can be a gaseous form, or it can be in some other form. But what I'm saying is that unless you have a closed system, that is the only time when you have this formula basically having any meaning.
Okay.
Okay, you don't have a closed system,
Yeah.
then the question is open to
But is
anyone,
is
everyone.
the universe a closed system?
The universe, yes.
So, yeah.
In a way, it is a closed system because you see the universe is expanding.
Yep.
Yes, if it wasn't a closed system, it wouldn't be expanding.
It will never order. It will never end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have that. We do understand that the universe, as we know it today, yes, it had an origin,
Yep.
and we know that at some point it will have an end as well. And this is something both the scientists and the theists will agree upon.
Why does it have an end?
Why does it have an end?
Yes.
Everything has an end. That's also in the law of thermodynamics. If you go and read up the term entropy, you'll understand why. Everything has basically it has some movement, and this movement comes to an end at some point.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the reason I'm asking you. For you or anyone else to understand that we came from nothing or anything, forget about us, because we are complex beings. Even a single atom coming from nothing is inconceivable. Would you agree?
Reluctantly, I suppose.
So you think there is a possibility it can come from nothing?
I don't know.
No.
You're asking me how the
It's not a philosophical question.
To the knowledge that he has.
It's not really a philosophical question. It's more to see the
the
possibility.
answer to that, does he?
So you see, look, as
Told me here.
most people will come to an understanding that we or anything cannot just come. Because let's define what nothing is first. What do you think? What do you think nothing is?
Nothing is
It's all got
well,
too deep
naught,
for me.
zero,
Or zero is something actually.
zero. Okay, nothing really.
It's an abstract. It's an abstract form. It's a number.
Yeah.
But zero is something. I wouldn't say zero is nothing.
Okay, fine. It's an absence of anything.
That's very good actually. Exactly. Yeah. Or should we say absence of everything?
Absence of everything.
Yes.
That's
So absence of everything is nothing. Yeah. So what we are saying is, if something is nothing, and it's basically beyond anything that you can imagine or anything you can think of, and the absence of everything, basically everything that you know of, everything you can imagine, everything you can see, you can feel, touch, measure, everything. It's none of that. That is nothing. So how can this nothing give or basically give rise to anything at all, even an atom?
Well, again,
Because you see, the atom is not really very simple either. It is, if you look at it with an electron microscope, yes,
Yeah.
or whatever you can actually make out of it, it's still complex, you know. You'll see similarities between the solar system and the atom.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got like we have the sun and we got the
electrons.
yes, exactly. So we got the sun and the planets orbiting around the sun,
true.
and we got the nucleus, and we got the electrons and the protons circling around the atom. Do you see similarity between a macroscopic element and a macroscopic element like the universe? Sorry, like the solar system, for example. So we see some sort of symmetry here, don't we?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Now, we cannot imagine even the simplest form of matter, the atom itself, can originate by itself. So the question arises, where does it come from?
Can I ask you, are you saying that the concept of nothing doesn't exist?
Let's define nothing. What's nothing to you? No, I didn't say concept of nothing doesn't exist. I know and understand what nothing is. But what I'm trying to...
Is there such a thing as nothing?
Nothing is absence of everything. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So if there's such a thing as nothing...
But do you think there is or there isn't?
Well, you tell me what it is.
No, I'm asking you, do you think...
I think nothing is not something that is tangible, if that's what you're asking. So when you say nothing...
You don't believe in the concept of nothing?
No, there is a concept of nothing. So for example, if you take infinity, which is basically, it could be a lot, yes, innumerable, yes, then nothing would probably be the opposite of that. Yes, because this is infinite. It can be infinite. It can be.
That doesn't follow.
Okay, what is nothing?
Non-sequitur.
I'll tell you what. You define nothing to me.
No, I can't.
Why not? Would you agree with the definition I gave you? The absence of everything?
No.
Okay, why not?
Well, the absence of everything, it's a definition. But that's not the question I was asking. Is,
so what is the question asking?
Well, the question I'm asking is whether you sort of like you accept the idea that nothing is something that could be possible, or
nothing is a concept, like I told you. Just like the infinity is a concept, nothing is a concept. These are abstract terms. Yeah, it's an abstract term.
That's all it is.
That's why I said it's not something tangible. You can touch nothing.
Okay.
When you're touching either something, you know what I mean?
We're talking about something that isn't something that can be
Yeah,
understood.
because you came in the middle of the discussion, let me just... I'll fill you in as to what we were discussing about. Basically, the question I was asking is...
I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, the question I was asking is, do we believe that the origin of the universe is something that we know of or we don't know? And if we know of, what is it? And if we don't know, then that doesn't really answer the question about the origin of the universe. So, with regards to the origin of the universe, what do you understand? Where did it come from?
Well, my view on that, my personal view on that is we may know, and that's the key point.
Which is?
We may know some bits about it.
Which is what?
I don't know. I'm not au fait with it. But
okay. Let me
just finish the thought.
Yeah, sure.
We may. When I say we, I'm talking about those that are far more informed than me. May know, the scientists and whatever. They may know some bits about the start of the universe, but they don't know all of it. They know some bits, and from that they extrapolate and make assumptions.
Could they be speculating?
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that nobody is claiming that they know all about it.
No, I'm not saying to know all about it. All I'm saying is that, okay, we narrowed it down to the simplest understanding. Either the universe came from something or nothing, and that's why the nothing came in.
We don't know what nothing is.
No, we know.
So
we do know what nothing is.
No, we're not.
Yes, I just told you.
You said you don't.
No, I said the definition. I said it's not something tangible. It's a concept. I told you. So nothing. It either came from nothing.
No, but when you say it came from.
Yes.
But the thing you're saying it came from, you're saying you can't define.
I did define it already for you.
You didn't.
I said it's the absence of everything. You forgot already.
No, I didn't forget. That's not.
You said maybe that is a definition. You even said maybe.
Maybe it's a.
No, I think I would rather live with maybe than I don't know. You said you don't know. I said maybe. Here is a possibility. I'll tell you what. You falsified that definition.
No. Okay. So just to be clear, you're saying definitively nothing is the absence of everything. Everything.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Can you disprove that?
No. But I agree with you.
You agree with me? Why are we arguing about something we agree upon then?
But then.
Let's go back to the question I asked. Do you believe that the universe was originated from something or nothing? Is it logically conceivable for anyone to imagine it came from nothing?
Sorry, ask that.
Okay. Is it logically conceivable for anyone to imagine that the universe originated from nothing.
No, it can't come from
Okay, so we can rule that out? Can you rule that out?
However, so the alternative being that it came from something.
So yeah, exactly. That's the other alternative.
So the alternative. So then where did that something come from? Did that something...
We're coming to that. One step at a time, my friend.
Okay.
I really feel your passion. Okay. What I'm saying is that, look, we can easily rule out, because it's not scientific, it's not logical, it is not something a human being, yes, in the right mind can say that, yes, this phone that you have, or this speaker, this microphones here, they just pop out of nothing. Yes, out of thin air. Even something as simple as the microphones and the phones, compared to the universe, they have a maker. Yes? Okay. So why would not one of the most complex things out there, the universe itself?
One second now. You're backtracking on what you were saying.
On what?
You said the absence of everything. Now you're talking about a creator.
I haven't actually reached the creator yet.
You just mentioned
I mentioned about the worldly things. Do you disagree with that?
Look, wait a minute now.
The glasses that you have around your neck there, do you think it just fell from the sky?
No, that's a different issue.
So why is it a different issue?
I'll tell you why.
Same concept.
No, I'll tell you why. Because
if that can have a maker, why not the universe?
I'll tell you why.
Why? Go on.
Because you're mentioning nothing. You said something.
No, we ruled out that. Nothing, we have already ruled it out. So what is the other alternative? Something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So do you agree there is something which gave rise to the universe?
It didn't come from nothing. So the concept of nothing can't exist then.
My friend, we have already passed that.
No, but once you say something always existed, right, then that nullifies the concept of nothing.
Well, we haven't actually discussed that, so let's discuss that, shall we?
All right, yeah.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that because we have ruled out the nothing, now we focus on the something. Right. So what is this something that could have created this vast universe, which includes us, which includes everything in it, for I don't know how many millennia?
Wait a second. I don't think we quite ruled out nothing. I think we've said that it's illogical. I think we said it's illogical.
Tell me why would you not rule it out?
Because we don't know for sure.
Why would you not know for sure?
The same way we don't know that something created the universe.
No. If you have defined nothing as the absence of everything,
okay.
Yes, can such a concept ever give rise to something? Absence of everything that you know of, everything that you will know in the future, everything you know in the past, absence of all that. So we can, I think, quite easily rule it out.
But
logically, it's inconceivable.
I've got to interject here. You've just proven that nothing cannot exist.
But I just told you, that thing is a concept, my friend.
No, even the concept can't exist.
Why not?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. If you bear with me, I'll explain why.
Yeah, go on.
Because once you introduce something like a creator, right? Like, because if you have nothing...
But that's not nothing.
Wait a minute. If you have the concept of nothing, right? As a realistic concept, something we can all buy into, right? If you have that, then you will always have nothing. You can never...
I didn't even understand that. Can you repeat that, please?
I'll explain.
Go on.
If you have a concept such as nothing,
yes,
right? You know, the concept as most of us here would understand nothing, right? And you yourself have said that nothing can come from nothing, right?
No, I didn't say that. Nothing can come from nothing? When did I say that?
You said it earlier.
No, please don't put words in my mouth.
Okay. So something can come from nothing?
No, I didn't say that either.
Well, which is it?
Actually, I said something cannot come from nothing. Are you with me? Something cannot come from nothing. Do you agree with that? I think you did agree earlier.
Absolutely.
Are you backtracking on that? Good.
But you seem to be saying one thing and then you change it.
No, I did not change anything. Honestly, I did not.
So you're saying that something cannot come from nothing.
Yes.
All right.
Finally.
So, right now let's keep that thought. So something.
Yes.
Cannot come from nothing.
Yes.
Right. Therefore, the concept of nothing, as we all understand it here, if you have nothing, then you will always have nothing.
That bit I didn't understand. Did anybody else understand that?
You said something.
If you don't have nothing, then you don't have nothing.
But listen to me. You said that something cannot come from this nothing.
Do you not agree with that?
I do agree with it.
So why are we arguing about something we agree upon?
Because when I say that if you have nothing...
I'm just arguing for the sake of argument.
You're not listening,
Look,
are you?
we already agree. No, I am.
No, you're not.
Because what you're doing...
You're not
you're not making sense here. When you said nothing comes from nothing. We know nothing is a concept.
Yeah.
Yes? this nothing cannot give rise to
I
something.
don't think you're listening to what I'm saying.
I think I have.
Bro, he's actually agreeing with you.
But I was agreeing with you, but you're not listening.
No, he's actually agreeing with you.
But remember what I told you earlier.
not listening.
If we agree on something, why do we argue upon that? Why are we arguing on something we agree upon?
Because once you set that as a concept, then you can extrapolate from it. But
That's what I was
when
doing.
tried
I was going to explain that. I was going to explain the something.
you weren't listening to what.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Peace be with you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, because you said you said nothing cannot come from nothing. If he's agreeing, I told him already earlier. If you agree with me,
No, he was actually backing you up.
Is he?
But the way he was saying it, you didn't understand.
Okay. So you said we cannot rule out the nothing.
I'm saying
Do you have a reason for that?
yes,
Which is
because we don't know in entirety. I think
we don't know in entirety what.
entirety. Like until you know everything, you can't. I had a good way of saying this. Like,
Are you saying that until we know everything, we won't know nothing?
no, I don't think.
Okay, do we know what nothing is so far?
Okay.
Based on our discussion so far, do we know what nothing is?
You gave a definition that nothing is.
Actually, you did, remember?
Oh.
I asked you,
Okay, I think
and
we
then I
combined-
agreed with you.
We kind of combined.
Yes, yes.
Made,
You said nothing is
Nothing is-
absence of anything, and I said, let's say it's the absence of everything.
everything.
Yes.
Fine. Okay. Yes. So that was our
So
definition.
shall we? Do we agree on that definition?
I think we do. I think we do.
Okay, so now based on this definition itself, why would you say you would not rule out this? That something cannot originate from nothing.
Why can something not originate from nothing?
No, why do we not? Why do we have to actually? Sorry, why do we not rule out the concept of something originating from nothing? If nothing is basically absence of everything.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to say something that probably doesn't make sense, and I'm just
we're used to it, that's fine.
I'm just shooting in the dark.
That's right. Go on, give it a try.
So, physics. So there's laws of physics that are applied to our universe.
Yes.
Things like that.
We're talking about before that. Remember?
Yeah.
Before the universe existed.
Exactly. So this is the point I was going to try and make.
Yeah.
I have no knowledge of this really, but if the laws of physics apply in this universe and say that nothing can be created from, something can't be created from nothing. Yeah. So that applies to our universe. So before our universe was created, maybe there were different laws.
You mean there was another universe?
Maybe a different universe.
Because you see, laws of physics don't just exist in thin air and in nothing.
But they apply to different universes. Again,
Even another,
I don't know.
we'll have the same issue if you bring another universe as well.
Yeah.
You see, the same issue will
forever.
because you cannot have infinite regression. That is also unscientific. Okay. So, for example, I'll give you a concept of a library. Imagine you have a library, and you're waiting in a queue, and this queue is so long, it's infinite. Will you ever get a book?
No.
Infinite means never ending.
Never ending.
Okay, so you see, this is the same concept that applies to this multiverses, which you have the problem or the issue of this infinite regression, that our universe wouldn't exist if there were multiple infinite universes before it. Just like you wouldn't get the book in the library, this universe wouldn't exist.
Okay.
Because you see, there's something called cause and effect. For every effect, there is a cause. So we'll constantly question what is the cause of this universe? What is the cause of the universe before that? What is the cause of the universe before that?
But it's like.
So even the multiverse theory doesn't really resolve the issue. It actually complicates it even more. And with the principle of infinite regression, we know that it will not exist. This universe will not exist.
Is it not like take this microphone, and then look inside it, and then look inside that, and look inside that, until you get to electrons.
Yeah, that's fine. So you started somewhere, and you ended somewhere.
And you're looking further and deeper and deeper and deeper.
That's fine, no problem at all. But the point is, this microphone, if I asked you, does this microphone create itself?
No, it didn't.
Okay, did it fall out of the sky, out of nothing?
Actually, I want to
out of thin air?
I want to talk about. I think you mentioned earlier. You said that I think you gave an example. If my phone was made, surely, and we're looking at small things and like blowing up to big things. So does that mean that the universe is made? And I think that the universe made itself.
It made itself?
To an extent.
How?
Okay.
Explain how.
From my knowledge, I read like a book by.
Is the universe conscious? does it know that the distance of the earth should be X miles from the sun in order for us all not to freeze to death?
No, I think that's chance.
Or burn to death?
I think that's chance.
So you think this planet is so unique by chance that we are perfect distance from the sun?
Yes.
Because you see a fraction far, a fraction near would actually either burn to death or freeze to death.
That's what
in fact, forget about burning to death, freezing to death. We wouldn't even exist to start with because the conditions wouldn't be correct.
My opinion.
And then the gravity. Take the gravity for example. The gravity, if it was too strong or too light, we would either be floating or can't even take a step.
I know, but I think, well, yeah, kind of.
So you see all this, I think there are too many chances because if all this happened by accident,
I disagree.
then you will really be putting too much faith into all these coincidences.
Put it this way.
Go on.
I've got like, I'm super strong and I've got a massive load of bricks in my hands. If I threw this pile of bricks up in the air like 1,000 times, or many, many times, eventually it would land in the shape of a house.
You think so?
Or, okay, fine. Say
that's the worst example I've heard. But anyway, I know what you're trying to say. Given the chance and the time, yes, we can see things happening. So, for example, there might be millions of years pass, and maybe one day the animals in the zoo will write Shakespeare, for example.
Maybe.
Yes. If you want to believe in such magic theories, then that's fine. I would rather believe in God.
I don't think it's magic.
Well, it is because we're saying everything that happens is by chance.
I think it is.
But I think it is the consciousness that you and I have. Yes. Do you think it came from the chemicals in your brain?
Yes.
You really think so?
Yes.
Explain that.
Okay. I'm no.
When you die,
I'm a neurobiologist.
I tell you what. When you die, your brain is still alive for I don't know how many minutes or something.
I think so. I'm not sure about it.
But does it have the ability to give any commands to your body?
No, but I think that's.
You see, you still have the brain. You still have the neurons in there, and they're still active. But you see, it does eventually shut down. You're right. But there is a time between your death and it shuts down. So within that fraction of that time, or whatever it is, yes, some people say it's 20 minutes. I don't know exactly how much, but there have been research done by scientists, and they say it's the brain remains active for minutes, up to 20 minutes for some people. But anyway, you see, what I'm trying to say here is that your brain is still there when you're dead. Yes? But you see, it's incapable of any action at all. What happens to your consciousness because your brain is still there?
Well, it's like a coma, for example. I think what you're describing is sort of like a coma.
Yeah.
So in a coma, your brain is still active, but the rest of your body... But
is it conscious?
Is it conscious?
Yes. Does it know what's happening around?
I think so.
In a coma, really?
I think so.
I think you should bring a patient in coma and ask him sometimes whether he knew what was happening while he was sleeping.
No. There are examples of people who have been in comas.
Yeah, we're talking about exceptions, my friend. Exceptions don't make a rule.
Okay, fine, but there have been.
We know people who came back from death sometimes, you know.
Well.
When I said from death, some of them got buried literally in a grave, and they came back alive. Maybe they were wrongly diagnosed as dead. But what I'm saying is that things like this happen, and there are exceptions. I'm not saying no. But you see, we are coming back to the consciousness of the universe. Do you think the universe has consciousness? No. Do you think the atoms have consciousness?
No.
Because many people try to understand somehow that energy has consciousness. But I really want to ask them how. How does an atom, for example, how does a brick, which is made of atoms, know that it's being hammered? Do you think it will move away from the place because it knows it's going to get damaged?
I don't think so.
No, it won't. Because it doesn't have the consciousness like a sentient being. The point here is that this origin of the universe is not by chance. It's not an accident. Because we see a purpose of everything in the world, everything in the universe. And all this is not by chance. The complexity, yes, the organized fashion in which we are basically created, all this doesn't just come by chance.
Okay, let me tell you my theory.
Yeah, go on.
So my alternative to that is that we exist in a massive universe.
Yeah.
And then there's so many planets, so many stars, and all that sort of thing. It's massive. Yes. And so then every once in a while there's going to be an anomaly where we just happen to be sitting in the Goldilocks zone, where you're just the right distance from the sun. And NASA has spotted other planets that are in that zone. They obviously can't tell whether there's life there or not because they're so far away. But yeah, I think that we just happen to have the right mass, the right asteroids. An asteroid with water hit us like so long ago, and all that.
What does that prove?
What does that prove?
That still doesn't prove we came from nothing, does it? it still doesn't prove that we self-existed. It doesn't still prove that.
I think it proves that the universe. I think because you're saying that the universe has consciousness.
No, wait. So you're saying this coincidence. How do you have this leap of faith from all these accidents with the perfect planet and the perfect conditions? This coincidence. How do you link that to the consciousness of the universe?
Well.
And why is it the universe that is conscious? Because there was a point.
I'm saying the universe.
No, I'm saying there was a point in time when this planet did not exist.
So,
right?
Well, yeah, this planet was like a small asteroid.
Well, we don't know what it is. That's speculation.
Speculation.
Yes, it can be basically a remnant of another planet, another star. I don't know what it is. What I'm saying is, what we are discussing here is basically how did all this originate? You see, like I said, it cannot be nothing. So we need to focus on this something. Now this something the something has to be conscious, yes, intelligent, it has to be eternal, because otherwise we'll have the same issue about where did it come from, yes, it has to be the uncaused cause. If you don't know, I'll explain that what it means. Yes, because you see everything has a cause and effect. Yes, so this planet, this universe has a cause, and the universe is basically the effect, and the planet is the effect. Yes, and we can go on until we reach a point where we come to this two divisions here. Is it from nothing or is it from something? We rule out nothing, so now we are back to something. Yes, and this something, unless and until it has these qualities, then if it has these qualities, it is able to give rise to the universe as we know it.
Okay. Wait, can you go back to the bit where you were saying with the universe is...
Yeah, the universe did not create itself. It has to be created by something. And this something is the uncaused cause, is self-existent. It has consciousness and intelligence. Yes, it has the ability to create, and the power and the ability to create.
Okay, so this is how I heard it. So I read this book by some astronomer.
Okay.
And so the way they put, I'm trying to remember this book. So it's, I think there was, so you have a singularity, and then it became unbalanced, and then it exploded. I think it exploded. Well, something happened, and the universe started expanding, and that's where apparently it's. So what I got from that book was it was just a mistake, a kind of mistake, a kind of coincidence, and it makes sense that. So with that assumption, and of course it's a very grey area with lots of people.
No, but you went straight from the singularity to expansion.
Yes.
The question still arises: where did the singularity come from? The balance unbalance is still coming later on. The question first arises: is where did the singularity come from? You see, we are back to square one.
Yes.
It has to have an origin. It has to have a creator. It has to have a cause.
Okay.
Now this question, like I said, this cause, until it has these points which I mentioned earlier, yes, and if it has these points, then it's able to create the singularity and the expansion and the correct gravity and the correct physical laws and everything in it. There's no problem at all. But if you say all this just came by accident and we are all the product of an accident or coincidence, then I think that is a bigger leap of faith than to actually believe there is actually an entity out there which is able to make all these things.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's very difficult to argue the starting of the universe, but I'd like to talk about how humans were created, because I thought...
but that all comes later on.
Huh?
That all comes later on, the evolution and all that comes later on.
Yes.
Before that, we're talking about even the evolution. Before you talk about evolution, you have to talk about abiogenesis, which is where did the first cell come from? The origin of the cell. You know, the cell is quite complex. Yes?
I know.
Do you remember the components of the cell?
I study biology.
Okay, so I'm sure you're aware of how complex it is. So it's got the nucleus, which has the mitochondria, which is the power factory, which gives energy to the cell. Yes?
Yep.
Do you think all that just fixed itself one day by coincidence as well?
One day, yes. I do.
You really think so? As a biologist, you actually think it just all these components came together, perfectly formed this single fell.
Perfectly. It's again. It's like what I said about the bricks. Like you throw them up and they'll land in a stack eventually.
No, but the components, where did they come from?
Where did they come from?
Yes.
Let's tell you what. We got the start of the universe, right?
Yeah.
And we got like where we got stars.
We fast forwarded very quickly because I think we were stuck there. So let's move on to abiogenesis. That's fine.
We were stuck.
Yeah, go on.
So what we've got is we've got a bunch of stars, and these stars underwent nuclear fusion. So nuclear fusion where the new elements are made. So you've got like
new elements made. What? Just by accident?
By fusion. By fusion.
So you think fusion happens in the sun? Are there new elements being made by the sun?
I can't remember about the sun, but bigger stars.
Yeah, I think you should stick to biology, not physics.
I do physics as well.
Oh, you do? But you should know that nuclear fusion doesn't just create new elements.
Is it fission or fusion? I can't remember. It's either fission or fusion. But I know that stars create new elements, and are made up of new elements.
What new elements? Like what?
I'm talking new elements relative to the beginning of the universe.
Are we going back to the beginning of the universe? We were down to the single cell.
I'm talking relative to the beginning of the universe.
Okay, let's go back to the topic we are talking, which was the single cell.
Okay. Fine.
How did the single cell form?
So I'll get onto that.
Okay,
so
go on.
These stars have these. So basically, what I'm saying is that all these elements, eventually in the form of meteorites and things like this. I'm not too sure about that, but yes, they came and they hit Earth, and meteorites with water on them. I know that this happened. Meteorites with water on them.
How much water?
Lots of water.
Lots of water.
Lots of water.
I wish we had meteorites in the skies like that today. Yeah. Can you imagine all the planets having lots of water?
Imagine that.
Yes. Why are there no water on other planets?
Well, there's water on Mars.
Do you think they all hit only Earth?
No.
Then?
Well, I think...
Is there water on Mars? Are you sure about that?
I think yes.
No, it's a theory. I don't think they've actually...
They've spotted like veins on Mars, which suggests that there was water there. And I think somebody was telling me the other